Hey guys, what's up? This is Nachos, and in this video we are going to be playing some 500 NL on GG. Here I think I can block bet. So check bet line. On the top left I'm going to have some raises. I'm going to have some calls. Rolled 50, so just roll again and a call. I'm not entirely sure how often I should be raising there with my combo. I expect it to be slightly less than 50 actually, like somewhere in the 35-40 region, but could be wrong. I'm getting a second barrel by a guy that I've marked from probably way back as sort of a tighter regular. I think he mass multi-tables. We have a relatively easy call at this point. Raising doesn't make too much sense. We're just not going to get too many calls from hands that are worse. And we're not going to make better folds. So we just have kind of the hand that wants to just call and either hit or potentially bluff catch river. Or when we get a check like we do it here, our EV just increases significantly. Like if we get another bet here, then probably our EV is like slightly losing for a call versus this guy. And now that we get a check, we are winning reasonably often, but he's going to check some king 8, king 9 type hands. I'm assuming king 7. Block betting here seems reasonable. Oh, close this table. And then on the turn, I want to barrel pretty often, although this guy's recreational, so a little bit less often. My hand doesn't really want to barrel though, because I'm blocking some hands that are going to call the flop and fold the turn, like his king 9 of clubs type hands. So having clubs here for second barreling is not great. So I'm just going to check this one. And then we just fold here, which is fine. Just like a pure check fold there. On the top right, we are just mostly going to raise this. Yeah, we are not really going to. I don't think we ever call, maybe very low frequency. Bottom right, we are going to have some checks on a texture like this, where we are going to go with a large size and a check, a few quarters and check. But the ace of diamonds makes us want to bet more. And then the ace of, like if we don't have the ace of diamonds, we are more interested in betting now, in checking now, because now we have more equity basically. I'm going to check this time because I rolled very low, and on the turn here I'm going to go ahead and bet large. As it's a pretty dry and disconnected texture, and equities are pretty static here. And on the turn on the bottom right I'm just going to go and bet 3/4. It's kind of cheating in a sense, because I think I just want to go smaller there mostly, but it seems like this is a recreational and I don't think I'm getting raised often enough when I block bet. So I can just do this and get away with it. And then river is going to be another bet. We can pick most sizes. I think 3/4 is just fine though. Just getting a call like 10x always seems reasonable. And then on the top right, we're going to jam. We're going to sometimes run into something like pocket kings. There's a guy like this. Like it's kind of tough to get called by a guy like this because he might just be overfolding. But still, you just have to go for it. And he snaps me off with ace-5, which is reasonable. Bottom right, if this is recreational, he's not going to over bluff here, which is kind of gross. He's going to under bluff actually, and I don't beat value. So like the way I usually go about this is, do I beat value? No. Okay. Then it's pretty close to indifference. And so then the question is, does he under or over bluff? If he under bluffs, we just fold. Kind of a, yeah, like obviously not great, but he's going to not raise very often on the river there. It's a clear value bet, and he just overfolds versus a raise there, if you know that the player type is not going to be bluffing sufficiently. I'm going to go with a polar sizing here, so overbet and check on an ace-jack X two-tone texture, and this is going to make it into a checking range quite often. Probably pure, by the way. I don't think this is going to be value betting particularly often. Turn is interesting. I think we just check again. Top left, I'm going to 3-bet because this guy is presumably recreational still. So I want to isolate him. And then bottom right, we are just going to check. And I'm probably bluff this river because my king high is not really worth that much here. The recreational, again, I'm not 100% sure. It might be a regular that's playing every day here, and I'm wildly disrespecting him, just basing this off the few hands that I've seen. He's betting 2x pot here, so probably not a recreational. But if he's a recreational, he's not going to be 4-betting enough. And here we are going to overbet on the bottom right, and top left we're going to call that 2x bet. With our pair plus draw, he's going to bet some flush draws that he's going to give up on the river. versus which we mostly win. I went with a half pot bet on the flop here. I should actually go very small with my range. My hand is okay to bet, but I should just go small. Interesting spot. I think I'm just going to check back. I don't really have too many. I don't have too many 8s or 3s in my range. I think he should have a leading range on this river, and I don't think the average 500 an hour rack is going to find that, which means I'm betting even less. And then I'm blocking. I'm not that sure. Probably blocking some folds with jacks and some king 10. That's probably supposed to fold if I jam here, so I'm just going to give up here. Here's queen 10, which, yeah, I'm not sure if he would have folded there. Let's see what the guy had. He jammed and he showed a 7 of hearts. Still not sure if it's a recreational or a rack. When you see that 2x overbet on the turn, though, I think it's very often going to be a draw. This line, more often than it should, probably. Alright, so heads up. I have no idea how to play this, I'll be completely honest. I have no idea about the sizings or whatever, because I'm not playing heads up ever. What I do know is that 5-3 and 6-5 are going to be the highest frequency bets, and then 6-3 is going to be a low frequency bet. This unblocks calls by 6x, so that's pretty good. I'm going to go with the sizing that I would go if this was 6 max, which might be a mistake, but yeah, it can't be too bad. Getting a block bet here. We opened ace king, get called, and now we get a block bet, or not, half pot bet actually on the flop. We have a pretty clear call. Should we have hidden ace or king on the turn, then we are going to be leading quite often, except on the club. Versus recreation, I'm tempted to call in this low texture, and top right we are going to have to fold. There's just going to be a lot of air and random offsuited junk that they call pre-flop. Like they're going to have some king 10 offsuit, queen 10 offsuit in their range, which they shouldn't. So on a low texture like this, there's an abundance of like higher cards that they really shouldn't have. So I'm just going to call, and the river is going to be close. I prefer a check here, and then we win sometimes. Yeah, we're not going to be winning very often with ace king there. That's just a fact of life. But we need 25%. We get some equity from sometimes hitting an ace or a king, and sometimes we just have the best hand now. So yeah, reasonable call. Bottom left, we are going to 3-bet ace queen. Top right, we c-bet small on this texture, which I have no idea if that's the correct strategy heads up. Now we have a pretty decent check back. There's no real reason to bet this. Probably like bang in the middle of our range. If you want to bet, we are going to go with a small sizing mostly. Although we're going to have some bigger bets as well. So like either small or very large is going to be the sizing here. And then small, you can bet some 2 pairs still. And the largest sizings are going to be some random ace X, and then some ace queen and some queen X. And then like smaller sizing will contain some queen X as well. And obviously some random bluffs that don't really block like calls by out of position here. And here this is not ideal. I have no idea if this guy's going to find enough bluffs on the 4 straight, to be honest. But we get a small size and we just call, I think. I'm just going to go and 4-bet to a regular size. Bottom left here, can check a reasonable amount. Betting isn't too bad with the additional equity. We rolled quite high, but I'm just going to check, I think, and call rivers versus this guy. Top left is an interesting texture. We are definitely going to c-bet. Like I probably just want to go and bet small, but I'm just going to bet my standard size. And top left, bottom left, I'm just going to c-bet here. Value bet. Top left is an interesting spot. I think I should be going bet here in theory, but I think it is quite likely that my opponent is going to get rid of some aces. And I think he's going to be playing pretty honest if I check to him. Meaning that he's going to bet a queen very often for 2 streets, but he's not going to find too many bluffs on a texture like this. Or, actually, like I'm not going to fold here, but I'm just trying to plan ahead. Yeah, I'm not too thrilled with my line there. I should probably just bet the turn myself. so that I can always get value from an ace. I should probably just, like, I was thinking for a second, I might just be better off check calling the turn and then check folding the river, but I can just bet the turn and then check fold the river if he goes all in, because he's not going to jam the river with a naked ace there. And that way I get more value from a hand like ace 5, although I get one bet in versus ace 5 anyway. Not entirely sure. Like, betting can't be too bad, but we got a 3-bet here with pocket jacks. We should be getting a fair amount of checks here, and here we do. So our hand is going to bet mostly, sometimes check, I think, and we're going to go with a small sizing only here. This time I'm going to bet. Having a heart is good, so I think I get to bet this the vast majority of the times. I think the way this works is I'm betting a hand like this most often, and then like something like queens a little bit less often, and tens, nines less often as well. He should probably think about leading here. He's going to have a bunch of check calls with ace highs, and I'm not really stepping those as often. I'm stepping them sometimes, but not as often, so I should definitely have a leading range here. I think most regulars at these levels are not really thinking about that though. So for that reason, I'm just going to check back a bit more. My man is betting 10% of the pot. We are rarely going to be good here, and he's making my exact hand indifferent, I think. Although when you get like a 10% bet, it's really hard to see a lot of folds here. We could potentially change this into a bluff. Problem is that I think he's going to have something. I'm going to call, like, it's 10%, but like rarely going to be good there. Yeah, like this was kind of what I was worried about. Like, I think like they are going to be super strong there a little bit too often, just begging for a raise, and like that's not necessary. They're going to be super strong there a little bit too often, not necessarily because this shouldn't be block betting ever, but simply because they are lacking like some of the 10% sizes that they need to find here with some weaker king X or possibly even pocket queens or something like that. Would be a cool bluff if I had a queen there. Here I'm just going to bet 2 times. Recreationals check back 2 weak, so just betting 2 times is going to be way to go. I'm just going to overbet the river, I think, and just put everything in, because betting smaller doesn't make too much sense. Yeah, obviously sometimes going to happen. Cold call by a recreational on the bottom left. A recreational or a rank, I'm not entirely sure. Going to have a pretty high checking frequency here, especially versus small blind, and probably go half full and check, but I'm going to bet this hand because we just have a ton of equity and not an awful lot of branches in the game tree where we check down and win. So just getting some folds now is pretty good, building a pot is pretty good. And then on the turn here I'm going to overbet and apply maximum pressure. Bottom right, I could bet the turn, I could check, both are fine. And top left, I'm going to go with a range bet for small sizing on this ace high disconnected texture. We get a block bet and we are going to raise with our 2 pair. He's not really going to have any nines. There's going to be the occasional flush, but mostly we're just going to be good here. I think he's just going to be betting a pocket pair or a weak queen. I would be raising my queen X reasonably often, even if I didn't hit the 10. Probably like queen jack and better would be raising though. Yeah, well actually, this makes a reasonable amount of sense. I was a bit surprised by him having this in his calling range, but the big blind is a recreational, which I kind of missed. So there's going to be some 9x in his range. Still, we have a very like slam dunk raise. So yeah, just very easy raise there. On the bottom right, we face a larger bet size here on this texture, which is reasonable. Our hand is going to call quite often. We unblock some calls when we want to check raise by blocking the king, and there's going to be plenty of hands where we are going to get counterfeited. So any jack or 7 here is going to get us counterfeited. So this is actually a pretty good hand to just call, and probably just going to call down. We get an overbet on the turn. Nothing much to say, but we just have a call here, pretending to think about this a little bit like I would when I have king 10, king 9. Just not want to make it too obvious here that I'm calling. And as long as we're running out blankish, I think we just mostly are going to call, although this might be a spot where versus particular players you might be over folding. He doesn't pull the trigger, seems like. Wow. Yeah. He should definitely value that the river. Maybe I just have to go more polar. I'm not entirely sure. Usually on these 4 flush runouts you're just sizing down a little bit, but I could see because my opponent doesn't have too many flushes in his range that we get to go a little bit larger there. And he doesn't have too many flushes in his range because he doesn't have a lot of offsuited hands, at least not as often as I do. But I think like going small is probably reasonable. I think we just check, like we might have like a low frequency bet there. Definitely not a high frequency bet. Checking is fine. The only thing is I block some folds here, but betting 5 high can be horrible, so we just go and bet 5 high. It would be value betting an ace and worse for the sizing. Sorry, an ace and better for the sizing. Some pocket 10s, pocket queens, pocket kings. Alright, so that's it for this video. If you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and there's a link to our free Discord server, so if you want to join that and hang out, please do. And talk to you guys soon. Bye.